Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're ready for another adventure. So in this video, we're going to look at building a classifieds or for sale section to our SharePoint sites or your intranet. Now this video kind of got a bit long on me, so I've had to split it into two parts. So it made sense to me to make the first part all about the user experience. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we build this for sale user experience. We're going to create a SharePoint list and we're going to use some JSON formatting to make it just perfect to embed on our pages. And then we're going to build the page experience that sits around it so we can embed the list on a page, tell people what it's all about. We're also going to use a secondary list for some dynamic filtering so people can filter through the categories of our for sale items. So it's going to be really great. The second video is going to be all about the process. So it's well and good having a really nice classifieds or for sales area, but we need it to be practical. So the second video is going to be all about how we can build a process around this. So we're going to look at things like Microsoft Forms and Power Automate and how we can automate the whole submission workflow so people can submit items to the list. It'll automatically get populated and will bring images over, which is a bit trickier than I thought it was going to be. So lots to get into. So, grab a tea, grab a coffee if it's a suitable hour, it always is, grab a beer or a wine, and let's get into it. This video is sponsored, by me and the SharePoint Intranet Site Builder Masterclass. This is a course that I've put together for anybody who has inherited an existing intranet site or indeed wants to build a brand new department intranet site. The course focuses on the most common requirements I see again and again in the intranets that I build, and it acts as a step-by-step guide on how to create them. There's a big focus on user experience within this course, and I've designed it so you don't have to be a techie to take it. This course is aimed at any business user who wants to up their game within SharePoint. So if you're interested, there's a link below along with a tasty discount to get you going. Now back to the video. Okay, so what are we building? Well, here we have the page, which is our creative enough title, stuff for sale, and some Latin, which I forgot to take out. So we have our stuff for sale. We can ask people if they want to submit an item, which will link to a form, which we'll get to. Then we come down and we have the items for sale. So this is our list with our custom view applied and presented on the page. So we let people see, what the item is. We give them an image, we give them a title, a price, a description, who the owner is, and a preferred contact method. So that could be anything really. And then we give people the option to filter by category. So every one of our items, we've added one of these category tags to, so people can come in here and filter. As the amount of items get bigger, people can find this as an easy enough way to get through them. So that's pretty straightforward enough for this page. Then what sits behind this is the list itself. So all of this is powered from this classifieds list where it looks like a standard enough SharePoint list that we'll create. But the magic is where we have our add view, which is a gallery view where we've made some amendments to the JSON to do things like, stylize this piece here, add this tag above the image, which nearly broke my brain trying to do, but we got there in the end, and I'll show you exactly how I did it. Other things that we'll look at in this video is going to be the for sale categories, which is extremely simple to do. Again, we just use a gallery type view for this and embed it on the page and then hook it up for dynamic filtering. And then we'll go through some basic examples of how you might turn this whole thing into a process where people can submit items through a form. And we'll look at some automation, how we can automatically populate our list with the submissions and get the images across. But let's start with this list, because it's the most visual and exciting piece of the whole process. So let's start off by building our list. Seems like a good place to start. So what we want to do is we'll come to site contents and we'll say new and list. We'll choose blank list and we'll give it a name of classifieds 2, and we can show it in the navigation. That's fine. Great. So now that we're in here, we'll just add in the columns that we're going to need. So the first column that we're going to add is going to be the price of our item. So we'll scroll down and we'll choose currency. And we'll say next. And I'm going to name it price because I'm Irish. I'm going to change it to euro in Ireland. And that is fine. We'll click save. Now, the next column we're going to add is the description column. Now, you might think that the way we would do this would be to add a multiple lines of text column, and we will eventually, but we want to add validation to this column, and we can't add a maximum character length to the multiple line of text column. It just doesn't seem to work for some strange reason. So we have to do a bit of a process here in that what we're going to do is create a single line of text column, add the validation to that, and then once it's in place, we're going to change the column to a multi-line text column and the validation will remain in place. So let's do that. So add a column. We're going to use a text column, say next, we'll call it item description, and we'll click save. And we'll just widen that out a bit so we can see it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the list settings, so the cog up in the top, and then we're going to go to list settings, and then we're going to go to validation settings. And what we want to do in here is we're going to type in equals, and we're going to type in LEN, and we're going to put in our item description. add to formula. Okay, now this comes in square brackets, but that doesn't work. So you need to change them to round brackets. And then we can add in a message to show somebody if the validation fails. So we'll type in, please use a maximum of 200 characters for your item description. And how do we enforce that? Well, we put in a less than 200. So the length of the item description column must be less than 200. Okay, so that's 200 characters. Now, why am I using 200 characters? Well, the size of the card that we're going to show, we have to set the height of it. And I've worked it out through mathematics that 200 characters is about the right amount to fit in the space I'm going to allocate to it. As we go through this, you'll see how you can increase the size of your card. And with that, you could increase the character limit if you want. So we'll say save, and we'll come back here. And now that we're back here, what we'll do is we'll go to item description, we'll say column settings, we'll say edit, and we will say we want this now to be multiple lines of text, and we'll click save. So now we have the multiple lines of text, but our validation should still be in place, and we can test that. We could say add a new item. We could give it a title of item 1, price of 1,000, and we'll enter in a large body of text. And then if we click save, we get the error, please use a maximum of 200 characters for your item description. So it worked. Happy days. So now we can move on and we can add our status. Okay, so we'll come in here, we'll choose a choice column, we'll say next, we'll call this status. And now you can put in whatever you want in here. I'm going to put in new, and as I think it looks nice, especially when we overlay it on the card, because this is what we will overlay on the card, I can add in an emoji. So I'll put in the fire symbol. Our next one will be available, and we might add in the green tick, and then the next one will be sold. And we can put in something like that. And that looks good. We'll amend the styling in a minute. Now, there's different ways you can amend the styling in this. One way would to be come in here, but we get limited styles in here. Okay, so we're not going to do it that way. For now, we'll just click save. And then what we can do is we can come in here and we can say column settings, and we can say format this column. And we have choice pills, which is what we want, but we want to click edit styles. And now we get more options in here. Okay, before we just had these colors, but now we have this option for more styles, which you only get by coming in this way. So what we might do is we might say, well, we want the text to be medium and we want it to be bold. And I'll click save, and I'll come back here and I'll just do the same for the others. Now you could change background colors and text colors and all that kind of stuff if you want. I'm just going to do this for now. So save, come back, sold, more styles, medium, bold, save. Perfect. And next what we'll do is we'll add in the category. So I'm going to say add column. It's going to be a choice again. Say next. We're going to have accommodation. We're going to have an item. We're going to have tickets. To obviously add in whatever makes sense to you. I'm not going to worry about the styling of this because they won't display on our card. So I'll leave them as is. I'll just give a name here of category, and we'll click save. Next, we'll add in a person column, and we'll call this owner. And we'll show this on the card, and it means if someone wants to hover over the person's profile image, they'll get the contact information stored in Active Directory, or Entra as it's called now. So we're going to say this is owner, person or group is fine, and we're going to show profile photos. And I'm going to say save, and we'll add in another column, which is single line of text. And this is going to be if someone wants to input a specific way to contact them, whether it's an email address or a phone number or something like that, that they just want to call out on the card. So we'll call this contact method, and everything else is fine. And then the last thing we want to put in here is we want an image. Okay, so we're going to say add column. We're going to come down here to image. Next, we'll say item image, and we'll say save. So now we have all the columns that we need. We might add in a test item, and then we can look at the formatting. So I'm going to say add a new item. I'm going to enter the title, which is Queens of the Stone Age tickets. They're going to be €200 because they're VIP. We'll add in our description. The status we're going to say is new for now. Category will be tickets. The owner will be myself. Contact method, I'll say, call me on 085-112-2234. That's not my actual number. Then we'll go to add an image. I'll just upload a Queens of the Stone Age image. Everything else is good, and we'll click save. And now we have our item in here. Okay, so far so good. Okay, we've got some data in here. So next thing we want to do is we want to create a gallery view. Okay, so I'm going to say add a view. I'm going to say it's called gallery, and we'll call this add view, and I'll say create. So this is what we get out of the box. Now you might be happy with this, and if that's the case, you're kind of done with this step, but I think there are improvements we can make in here. So for example, I want the status. I like it hovering over the card here. I think it looks pretty cool and pretty unique. We can see that the title is truncated, so it's limited to one line in this display, so it's chopped off here. And same with the description, we see 2 lines. So I want to see more than that. And I also want to, make the price stand out a bit better. So they're the things that we're going to do. So what we want to do first is we'll go over to add view, and we'll say format current view. Now we're going to get into some JSON in a second, okay? But first things first, we'll help ourselves out by getting it as close as we can. So I'll click edit card. and I'm going to not show the columns and labels, and I'm not going to show the category, but I will show the owner and the profile image, and I'm going to show the contact method. Okay, so this is all the information we will want on our card. Now we just have to jig it around a little bit and make it look better. So what I'll do is I'll say save for now, and now we'll get into the fun bit, which is our JSON. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to advanced mode, which brings us in here to this scary looking piece of code. I'm going to just drag this out so I can actually see what I'm doing. So the first thing we look at is the text wrapping. Now I know we can see it now, but if I close this window down, it'll be truncated again and will be when we embed it on our page. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to amend the style of this item and this item in here, okay? So what we want to do is we want to come down here and we want to find where we have our title. So we can come down here. For me, it's row 139 in here where we can see title, right? So you'll see your column name listed in here. So you might try and click in here and realize that you can't click, or at least I can't click in here. It drives me bananas. So what I have to do, or what I found I have to do, is I have to come down to the very bottom, click down here, and then I get the ability to add in the cursor and move it up. So we need to bring it all the way up to where we have our title. And what you're looking for here, row 144 in my case, is where we have text content. Okay, if title, blah, blah, blah. What you want to do is come to the end of that, put in a comma, come down a line, and we're going to add in style. And when we have that in here, now we're going to add in the attributes that are going to work for us. So the first one is called white space, and we're going to make that normal. We'll add in our comma. We're going to add in another attribute, which is going to be word break. And we're going to set that to keep all. Okay, so the white space is going to make it wrap around, which is great. Word break makes sure that we don't chop off words just at the line break. Okay, so that's what we want to do there. And we're just going to repeat the exact same code again when we come down to description. So we can see down here that we have our description, and we already have the style in here. So now we're just going to add on to that. Okay, so we'll add in a comma, and again, we'll do our white space, set it to normal, comma again, and we'll do our word break. And again, set it to keep all. So that's going to take care of our wrapping. And while we're in here at description, what we're going to do is we're going to increase the height that we give to display the description. So I'm going to set this to 80 pixels. And that means this piece here, while it's at 40 at the moment, I'm effectively going to double that so I can see 80. Okay. Now, when we come up to the very top, we can see here that the height of the card is 458, but I've increased the height of the description, so I need to increase this as well. So I'm going to increase this to 480. And here where I have hide selection, where it's false at the moment, I'm going to change that to true. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it so people cannot click this card when we're displaying it on the page. Okay, so they won't be taken out of our page experience to the list item. They'll stay where they are. So hide selection to true makes this kind of inactive in a sense. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to where I have my price, and I'm going to make it bold and change it to a custom color. So we just need to find the price column, and I can see that here. So all I do again is I'm going to come to where I have this text content, if price, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to add in the style. So I'll hit my comma here, type in style. We're going to add in font weight. We'll set that to bold, and we're going to put in color. You just want to put in the hex value of whatever color you want. My pink is FF0099, and that takes care of most of our formatting. So if I click preview, I can see that we are looking good. Now, I know you're thinking not a lot of space down here. We could have actually increased that more, but wait for a minute, because in the next step, we're going to take this and we're going to embed it up here, which will decrease the height of this, and then everything will fit nicely. So the preview looks good, right? So we're going to say save for now, close this down, and then we can see that our card is looking pretty good. We have the wrap and we can see everything where it should be. So in the next bit, we'll move this status indicator above the image. Okay, so this is where we get a little bit more in depth in the code. Okay, so like I said, what we want to do is we want to take this new, the status, and display it in the top right hand corner of this image. Okay, so we're going to come back over to our view. We'll drop it down and we'll say format current view, expand this over so we can see what the heck we're doing. And we're looking for a specific area in here. So for me, I come down here and it's just around line 47. But really what you're looking for is Elm type image, okay? Because that's our image. We're looking to do something after that point, okay? So we come down to image, we have all this stuff in here, and then we have the attributes of the image, and where we have a class equal to SharePoint card image preview, we're going to add in our additional code after this bit. So just after this comma here. So like I've said before in videos, I'm no developer, right? So I'm going to talk you through this the best way I can and how I understand it to work. So follow along. So we're going to hit return. I'm going to put in a set of these curly brackets, just so we don't forget, add in a comma after this one. The first thing we're going to type in is a new element type, or Elm type. I assume that's what that stands for. We're going to make it a div. So a div is like a section, okay? So we have this new section that we're adding in here. Now we just want to style it, tell it how to look and behave. So we have our style and we have our curly brackets again. So the first thing we're going to do is the position, okay? So we're going to say position. We're going to make it absolute. And again, look, if you see this, please enter valid view formatting JSON. You've done something a little bit wrong, right? And I have in this case, I didn't put in this fella in here, okay? So the position is absolute, so that means it's going to place it exactly where we want it. So now we just tell it where that is. So we're going to say top, and we're going to say 10 pixels. So that means we're going to have a 10 pixels from the top of this area up here. And then next we're going to add in right, okay? And we're going to say from the right, I also want it 10 pixels. And then we're going to add a background color. So behind our tag, we'll have a kind of a semi-transparent black background. So I'll put in background color. We'll give this a value of RGBA 000 just means black, and 0.5 means it's 50% transparent. That's all that means. We'll add some padding. So that'll be the space between our status and that background. And we'll say 5 pixels. We get fancy and give it a border radius of 3 pixels. And last but certainly not least, we're going to give this a Z index. And Z index just means it's going to sit on top of the image. We'll set that to 1. So that's good. We come down here, we'll add in one more comma, and then we're going to come in here. We're going to type in children. And this is effectively where we get to tell it, well, what is it we want to apply all of this styling to? So we'll have our square bracket, put in a curly bracket, and then we're just going to reference our column. So we say column formatter reference. And this is where you enter the name of your column with a $sign before it. So status in my case. And that should be it. So we'll press preview and we'll cross our fingers. And it didn't work because you were probably screaming at me all along and that I spelt absolute wrong. So let's go and address that. So I'll add in the missing S, preview again. And now we're in good shape. It's where we want it to be. So happy days. But as I'm sure you've noticed already, we have this up here, which is what we wanted, but we still have it down here. So we don't need it in 2 places. So let's remove this one. So to do that, all we've got to do is, well, we've got our status up here, but it's referenced somewhere else down here. So we just need to find it and remove it. So I've come down and I've found status reference down here. So what you want to do is we're looking to remove the div, right? The section that holds this area in here. So while we have status here, you kind of come up the line, okay, till you see elm type equals the div, right? And a handy way to know how far down to delete is if you bring your cursor up to this bracket just above that, it's basically saying that everything between this guy and this guy is all the stuff related to status, and we don't want any of that. So what we're going to do is delete it all. So I'm going to come down here and select all of that right down to here, and I'm going to delete it. So that's okay like that, and we'll just hit preview, and now we can see it's gone, and we have all this space in here, and everything looks great. So I'm going to say save, and now we have this beautiful looking for sale card. And what's nice about this will work no matter what the status is, okay? So I can come over to all items. I can select this one. I can change it to maybe available. That's fine. I come over to my ad view, and now we see available, and it all works grand. So it doesn't really matter what you put in your tag, it's going to work for you. So that's the scary part done. Now we can get back onto the fun part of bringing it all together and making it look great. So now we'll add our classified items to a page. Now the example I have here is how I've done it. I just gave it its own page. So we'll build that again, but obviously you're going to put this wherever it makes sense for you. So it might be even your intranet homepage if you're bold enough. I'll leave that to you, but I'll show you how I did this anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to say new page, and I'm just going to pick the blank page to start from and say create page. And we'll call this page classifieds 2. Now previously Microsoft gave us the ability to remove the banner, which was fantastic, but then they took it away, and now they've given us the ability back. So what we will do here is we'll delete this banner. So now we're just left with the page. So now we can get creative. So let's remove everything and start from scratch. So what I want to do is I want to add in a 1/3 left section. I'm going to add in a text web part here, and I'm going to call this stuff for sale. Select this, I'll make it a H2 so I get my strong bold color. I'll drop this down to maybe 68. Nice and big. I'll pop in a dummy description like so. And what we'll do is we'll add in a button. This is going to be our submit and add button, which will connect to a form in a few minutes. But for now, we'll just put in the button, edit the properties, and give it a label of submit and add. And then we can give it just any URL for the moment. So I'll just give it a link to this page. And then over here, I'm just going to add in my kind of image. So this is just a simple image that I've created with just random things. I don't know, represent stuff for sale to me. So I'll say add image, which comes in like so. And I might just crop out this top section here because it's not really doing that for me. So I'll say crop and freeform, and I will just drag this down. It's going to crop the image, which is brilliant. And now we'll just add in a background in here. So over on the right hand side, I'm going to say add a background. I'll go to stock images, and I'll just look for something colorful and purple, similar to what I have. We'll just pick this one for now. Our background comes in like this, and we can go to more settings down here, and we can just adjust the opacity. What we might do is we might add in a gradient over this, and we'll say it is left to right, and we'll just increase it slightly, and something like that works fine. So now we have our own header section in here, which looks good. And now we can actually add in our list. So looking back at our page, we've actually got 2 lists to add in here, our for sale categories and our items. So we'll add in the items first. So I'm going to add in a section. I'm going to make it 1 column. And now I'll add in the list web part. Select the list, classifieds 2, and over on the properties. So if you don't see this, don't worry about it. Just come here and go to edit properties. It'll be over here. And what you're going to do is pick your list, obviously. And then the view we want is our add view. I'm going to hide the command bar. I'm going to hide the CL button. Auto size is fine, and I'll click apply. And now we get our lovely list in here like this. If you don't want to show this in here, you can just add in a space and it'll remove the title. So we'll do that and we'll republish or publish to see what it looks like. So now we're looking pretty good. So the other thing to do is we're going to add in our filters in here. But before we do that, I'm just going to add a few more items to this to build it out. So I will be back in a second. There we have it. There's some items in there so we can see what it actually looks like. I think they are looking pretty good. Now, one thing here actually I missed out in the JSON is that we can actually still click these items here, and clicking them will open up the list item, which is something I'm not really wanting to do. So to fix that, what we'll do is we'll go back into our classifieds list and we'll come to our add view, and then we will say format current view. And so what we want to do is we want to get rid of this SharePoint card default click button. Again, we'll pop down in here. We'll find the bracket above the div, which holds this element. So we can see there's where our opening and closing curly brackets are. So it's basically everything in between them we want to get rid of. So I will select all of that and delete, and then we'll click save. And then we come back to our new page. We can see in here that we can click it and nothing will happen, and that's what we want, right? So the idea with this is I have it so that this is just self-contained in here. This is all you need: picture, title, price, bit of a description, who to contact. But this is just my version of this. You can also add in more items to the card if you want, just additional columns really within the list. The next thing we want to do is we want to add in the filters up here to filter by our items, tickets, and accommodation. So whatever the categories you had in your list. So what we'll do is we'll go to site contents and we'll create a new list. So in here, we'll say new, we'll say list, we'll say blank list, and we'll say add filters. So this one's going to be super easy. All we need to do is add in 3 new items. So the first one I'll add in is going to be called item, and I'll click save. Add in another one for accommodation, and then a final one for tickets. Okay, and we just want to slightly modify this to make it look nice on the page like buttons. So we'll say add a new view. We'll choose gallery again, and we'll say page view, click create. And we're almost there. This is a really quick bit. We'll just come in here and we'll say format current view. I'm going to edit the card, and I just don't want to show the titles. That's almost there, so I'll click save. And if you're picky like me, you just won't like the spacing here, right? Where we've got more space here, no space at the top. So we'll go to advanced mode, and we're experts at this now, right? So what we want to do is come down to the height, and we might just increase it to 65, and we'll preview that. So that gives us the height we want, but what we want is we want to space this a little bit more in the center of it. So what we're looking for is the title tag, which we have here, and then below our text content, we're going to add in the style again. So very similar to what we were doing in the other card when we wanted to change the look of one of the card items. So I'll add in a comma here. I'll type in style. We're going to add in some padding. Padding is just like space around the item itself. So we'll put in 10 pixels, which will be the top and bottom, and 7 pixels, which will be the sides. We'll preview that. That looks perfect to me. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to say save. So now we have this ready to go. So let's go back to the new page we created, and we can add it in. So I'm going to say edit page, add in another web part. It's going to be a list again. We're going to put in add filters, and we'll say edit properties. And we'll say the view we want is going to be our page view. We'll hide the command bar, hide the CL, everything here is fine. We'll click apply. And again, if we don't want to show this, we can just get rid of it there, add in a space, and it'll be gone. And that looks pretty good. So we have the filters here and we have the list here. So we need to connect them together, and that's through dynamic filtering. So the way to set that up is choose the list you want to filter, and over in the properties panel, turn on dynamic filtering. And it's going to say, well, what columns in this list do you want to filter? And we want to filter the category. Okay, and then it's going to say, well, what list on this page, apart from this one, is going to let you do that? So we're going to pick those blank here. That's probably because I took the title away, but we've only one other list here, so it has to be this. So we'll click this fella. And then it says, what is the column containing the category for filtering? So we put it in just as the title, so we can put that in. And we'll click apply, and we'll republish. And that means that when we come in here, if we just wanted to see items, we could select items, and it'll filter by items. Also, if we select accommodation, similarly, it works like that. So it works grand. Now, the one thing with this is that people can also click this, and again, that's going to take them to that list item, which I don't want to happen, or at least I don't want it to happen easily. So what we'll do is we'll come back to this list and make one further change. So we'll go to our page view, hit the drop down, format current view. And what we want to do is we want to remove this default click button like we did in our classifieds list. So we'll come down here, we'll identify where we want to delete from. We'll come down here, and then we will just get rid of all of this. So that's going to take away the initial click where people can see they can click on it. People will still be able to double click on it, okay? To stop that from happening, we'd have to say hide selection equals true, and then they wouldn't be able to interact with it like our classifieds ads. But we need the ability to be able to select these items because that's how the filters work. So we'll say save. And now when we come in here, everything looks the same, except if I click the card itself, it's not going to send me off to the list item. It's just going to filter the list. So I think it works good. I'm happy enough with that. So there you have it. That's my attempt anyway at a classifieds or for sale list and embedding it on a page. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm happy with the user experience, but really I think this method could work for any kind of notice board or things like that. In building out this example, I learned a lot about the JSON, and I can see that I'll use the same methods again and again in a lot of different scenarios. I hope you've got the same value out of watching it as I did in making it. If you did, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe if you're not already. And if you're curious to see how we can take this and turn it into a practical automated process for the submission of items to the list, then check out part 2 coming up next. Until then, see ya.